I do feel safe in New York. I believe in our police department. They do a terrific job in keeping us safe. We see them all around, and even though we know that it's not completely safe, there's something could happen any day. It's what it is. But we're not afraid in New York. I feel safe walking our streets.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the view of one New Yorker. We sent our cameras out to the streets of New York and got some opinions. Before we get back to our panel, I want us to watch a very brave liberal. I mean, he's a liberal. He's on the complete opposite end of the political spectrum from me, and this is the only thing he and I basically agree on, and he has the nerve to keep saying it. Watch.
Nation. That was my tweet. Yeah. We have to stop saying, when something like this that happened in Paris today, we have to stop saying, well, we should not insult a great religion. First of all, there are no great religions. They're all stupid and dangerous. And we should insult them, and we should be able to insult whatever we want. That is what free speech is like.
All right. Well, I don't agree with him on that, obviously, but he went on to talk about, that Islam, they'll chop your head off in Mecca, and if there were beheadings in the Vatican, we'd all know about it, but no one has the nerve to talk about what goes on. He talks about the religion of Islam, and if you convert, what happens, and the whole thing. I mean, he's sitting there, telling it like it is. Joining us once again, we have Jonathan Gilliam and Fred Fleitz on the Malzberg panel. Jonathan, again, it all comes down to recognizing the enemy. And once again, we have a report here from Reuters. There's warnings that Al-Qaeda in Syria is planning mass attacks on the West, specifically in Britain. I mean, it seems like, I don't know, they work in cycles. Have they reached a point where they've decided, there's been plenty of fatwas and messages online and social media. Is this a time period now where we really have to be on the lookout?
We should always be on the lookout. And that was one thing that I never understood when I was in the federal government, was that they like to put a lot of importance on known threats. The reality is we're under these threats all the time. It's the same group. We need to stop individualizing these groups and just look at them as one combative group. And, going to what Bill Maher was just saying there, I mean, again, you can't script this stuff that we would actually agree with Bill Maher, but right. The fact is, he is right about the Muslim community and them policing themselves. But people have to start realizing is you cannot just say what you want. You may have the right to, but as was shown in Paris, these people will target you and they will kill you. That's the enemy that we're facing today.
All right, well, interesting. I want to follow up on that. So what do you mean you just can't say what you want? Because, so you are suggesting people not provoke the terrorists?
Nope. What I'm saying is that if you want to say it, you better prepare yourself to be attacked. That's the way it is. I mean, you have the freedom to say whatever you want.
Right.
But you can't just go around spouting it out thinking that that life is going to be hunky-dory. I mean, these guys over in Paris, they said that they're martyrs for free speech. Guess what? They are. I mean, they didn't defend themselves. They didn't have a defense set up in their building, and they knew that they were a target.
Yeah. Fred, you agree?
I agree completely. There's been a stream of Muslim leaders condemning what happened in Paris, but unless those leaders say they endorse the freedom of press and tolerance of religion, even when Islam is criticized or insulted, they are adding to the radical ideology that led to these attacks. And basically, you're not going to see any of these leaders say that, because they're basically looking the other way because they don't want Islam criticized in any way. That's what we have to say, or we frankly don't have any time for these guys.
All right. What about of course, Jonathan is correct with you have to be vigilant all the time, but as a layman, at least from my point of view, what we're seeing now and the attacks on police officers and what we've seen, in recent weeks in various countries and here in our country, have we reached a cycle? I mean, is it cyclical? I mean, Al-Qaeda tends to wait years before they, try something big, and they did accomplish the biggest terrorist attack in Paris ever.
Well, it was a significant attack, but it was really a small number of attackers. But they got the propaganda value they were looking for. They know it's difficult to blow up major airliners. They'd like to do that. so they've turned to smaller attacks. We just need to make it clear that in modern society today, when your neighbor insults you, you don't pick out your gun, you don't blow them up, you can sue them, you can use moral pressure, you can ostracize them, but the world would descend in anarchy if we allow these Muslim leaders to continue to not say very clearly that this is unacceptable in today's society.
Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Well, I think he's absolutely right. The Muslims have to police themselves first of all, and then they have to decide what world they're going to live in secondary. But the thing is, when what's being shown, what happened in Paris, it's not. I've even been guilty of saying it's an evolution in terrorism. It's an evolution in the westernized countries for the way that they're attacking. The fact is, they use these tactics of using guns, going into malls, shooting up places, taking hostages and killing them. That's how they've spread so quickly in the Middle East, in Syria and Iraq as we leave, because they're just really good at using the small attacks to instill major fear. And now we see now that they're figuring out that, hey, we can do this over here, give guys a little bit of training, send them back over there, and they can do really, really well-coordinated attacks.
Fred, and let's not forget also cars. There's been lots of instances of people running people over with cars. Fred, do we let people who go over there to Syria or whatever, do we let them come back and into this country, or do we have safeguards against that?
Well, unfortunately, unlike the UK, the Obama administration is not stopping Americans who travel to Syria or Iraq from returning. I don't frankly understand that. I guess maybe they think there's some intelligence value or they have some type of constitutional right. But I think Congress has to take steps that if you fight for a foreign terrorist force in Iraq or Syria, you're not getting back into the United States.
I mean, Jonathan, that's a no-brainer.
Well, Catherine Herridge did a report that I had never even heard of, this incident where a guy went over and fought for the Kurds. He basically went on Facebook, saw this site. He's a veteran, I think an Army veteran, and it was like Wednesday. By Sunday, he was on the front line for the Kurds. So if he can do that, I mean, anybody else can do that and go over to Syria and not even be tracked.
Well, once they go, man, that's where you go. In this day and age, we got to change that. Otherwise, we're in big trouble. Hey, guys, have a great weekend. Stay safe. Fred Fleitz and Jonathan Gilliam, as always, appreciate it. We'll be back with the resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, Michael Rubin. But first, let's take a look back at this historic day with this hour's American moment. Oh, okay, I'll tell you a little bit. No, there is no American moment, but we tried.